Stephanie, would you like to begin with your most favorite investigation?
That is so hard, Michelle. So I knew I was going to have to answer this question, and I have no idea how to answer it because there are so many, obviously, because I've been doing this for a long time. I would have to say there are two that rise to the top. And I have talked about Cedar Grove Tavern, where we actually had the smoke detector going off that had never even been out of the bag and box that had been bought. We had so much activity that night, and that was poltergeist activity where the lens cap was pulled out of Dale's back pocket and thrown on the floor. And Dale was like, ladies, should we be getting out of here? He was actually a little freaked out.
For those, can I interrupt just a second? For those of you that don't know, Dale is he is part of Get Spooky Society with Stephanie, and he's also the cameraman. So
right.
Go ahead. Right.
And he says he feels nothing, which is BS. He's coming over to the dark side slowly but surely. But that one was amazing. And we've been back, and apparently I can't think of the spirit's name right now, but he had been bullied as a child. And so he then thinks he's a big bad bully now, and he's really not. So I think we helped him a lot in our subsequent investigations there. But then the other one that I kind of forget about, but we were just at the Buckeye Trading Post on 50 it's actually in Ohio, but it's on your way to Lawrenceburg. They just had the second annual Buckeye Bigfoot Bash, where Turtle Man was there and the Shenandoah Sasquatch. It was a blast. We were just there set up. And that place, the estate, the estate that sits on that place was one of those, I know you two have them, places you drive by and they just call to you and say, yes, I have to tell you stories.
Yes.
This place was one of those places, and I had no idea that a lady that I went to high school with owned it. So I just happened to go in looking for crystals one day, and she was there, and it took us about over a year to actually get it set up. What was very interesting about that place is they have a museum attached to the trading post, and then their house is like a museum of all these oddities. Lizzie Borden's doorknob, like a doorknob from her house, a hair wreath, floral wreath made out of hair that her aunt made. I mean, just crazy stuff. But in the house, she has all these oddities and antiques as well. And I'm an antique girl and, old and whatnot. And when they moved in there, they were like painting and stuff. There are 2 rooms, I think, that have little kids' handprints on the ceiling like this. And the ceilings are way up there. And there is a skee ball set that looks like a little tractor seat. And they got it in Madison, Indiana, I believe, or somewhere around there. And they had it in their previous place. And they knew a little boy was attached to it. Well, actually, I got twin little boys attached to it that said they were in the toy. And while we were investigating, they were fighting over it. And I had a flashlight and cat ball going off for both. Like, it was just mind-blowing.
Wow.
Those are my 2 favorite. And
wow. That's awesome.
It's on Native American land. They get a lot of their artifacts from their land. And I was ready for, the hostility, and they didn't come through at all. So that was interesting. But I'll say those are my 2 favorites.
That's very cool. Very cool. Okay, Shay, what about you?
Kind of in the same boat. There's so many that I'm like, man, like where, one of them would be the first time that I ever investigated St. Albans in Radford, Virginia. Man, that place is like, you just get close to the property and you're like, oh, that's a whole vibe to itself. Like, you just can't deny the fact that there's something there. It's probably one of the only places that I've ever, I don't say attacked in a light way because that's not something that happens very often to me, but I was attacked, like straight up slapped on the back of the neck and scratched all the way down. Like, we got it on pictures and everything, which immediately just enraged me.
Wow.
Sure.
There's never been a time that I've gone there that I haven't had some sort of experience that left me like, there is no doubt in my mind, if you weren't here, like, you missed out. that was probably one of the most memorable that I can think of. I felt bad for everybody recording EVPs after I got like scratched because my language was just kind of all over the place and very decorative. So that was an interesting playback to hear. Another one, it's actually here in Kentucky. It's in Benham, Kentucky. There is an old schoolhouse, but we also got to investigate the portal, the mine that's there. And it was kind of a personal event to me, which I think made it all the more interesting because my family has a very deep history with coal mining. Like, I have relatives on both sides who did it. A lot of them are from Eastern Kentucky. So I went in there and I kind of let them know that when I walked in. I was like, hey, I'm just going to be honest with you. I've got this grandfather, this other one, this great grandfather. I'm here because of them. You know, they supported my family, and that portal, I don't even know where to start. I mean, I was getting things I was asking for. We were getting confirmations right and left. We were getting rocks thrown. We were getting visuals, even when they turned the lights out, which it's a cave, right? It's a mine. There is no light. When you get back in there about, you know, a mile back, there's nothing. You could see the dark that was darker than the dark. Like, you were getting people, we were getting one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. And I have heard throughout history books and talking with other miners and just kind of some folklore is the Lantern Man. This guy, I don't know if you guys know much, but shows up when there's something wrong. Usually he's there to warn and to guide miners and people trapped like that back to the front of the entrance. We got him, like, got it on film. Somebody was recording as I'm talking, and you can see the lantern, this light starts swinging out in front of us. And I was like, is anybody else seeing this? You know, like confirmation that I'm not just insane. I got chills talking about it. But we heard music playing, and everything I could have dreamed for in an investigation was there. Wow. So it's a special place, especially, like I said, close to my heart with the stories about it. So
right.
Those might be my top two.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. You guys have been through so many awesome investigations. My favorite is I had a school friend reach out to me. It's nice. In Kentucky. And she said, you know, I really need help. They had like a family home that was way out in the country. And I stopped her and I said, okay, I don't mind to help, but please don't give me any information. I don't want to know the address. I don't want to know anything, right? So my process is, before I go on an investigation for 3 days, I meditate and I receive information and I draw everything out that comes through and, you know, in vision. And then, of course, anything that comes through in voice, I write it out. So for 3 days, I was getting information, and as I was getting it and drawing it out, I was sending it to her, but I told her not to let me know until I tell her I've gotten all the information. It was really sad because these were slaves. It was a father and a son, and they were showing me where they lived, and there was like this real small shack, and it was right behind like this rock fence. And so I drew out everything I was seeing and some things that they said. I sent that to her. So then I began communicating and finding other spirits who were there, because there was a complaint of there was something really nasty there. Okay. So what my job, my role is when I do this is to go in like within consciousness and meet the spirits that are there, find out why they're there, who they are, what they look like, all these things, draw them out, write them out, right? There was one lady that came through and she had on a blue dress, almost like a Southern Belle type look. And she had hanged herself. I saw a tree. I drew the tree, drew the noose, and explained some things that she had told me about her. Well, then I was shown the house, and I could see the pathway, like a small gravel driveway. So, I drew all that out, and there was this entity that was a very negative entity. Now, it wasn't demonic, but it was very negative. It was one of these negative energies that wanted you to think that it was a demon, but it wasn't. So it showed me where it was staying, on the upper level of this house. So on that portion of the house, there was no window. When I was communicating with this entity, it was just really, really nasty. And all of a sudden, it shows me this big, huge billboard, and it says, "Come get me." And I said, "Oh, you just dared the wrong person." So I sent all these to Angie. And she's like, "Oh my God, this is the place. You just drew the place. You've never been there. I didn't give you the address." I was like, "Yeah, right." And so she was like, "We've seen this girl with the blue, like the Southern Belle type. We've seen her." And she said, "Where you're telling us that this negative entity is in the house, that's where we always have issues." So anyway, so we go to investigate, and it was just really awesome driving in and seeing that this is the place that's on paper, right? Because I still had the papers. I had only sent photos, of what I had drawn out. So it was really awesome because, being able to look, actually driving down the path that I drew, and here's that house and the section that didn't have a window. So anyways, we go through, and is that rock fence, the slave quarters. There were slave quarters there. So it was like everything was coming into alignment to what had came through. So anyways, we all go to the front door, and we all heard a growl coming right from the other side of the door inside the house. It started to freak them out, because they had the key in the door and they're getting ready to open it up. And then we heard this big, like something had more than kicked it. There was a really loud, like something really heavy, as if it had rammed itself into the door. And it was daring us to come in. And I told them, I said, "Okay, guys, here's the thing. It's trying to scare us away. It doesn't want us to come in." I said, "But we need to go ahead and show them who has authority." So we went ahead, and they went ahead and unlocked the door. We went in, and, of course, we went through the area and everything. And when I got into that room, there it was. And I had to help cleanse it out, and it took a long time. It really did. It took, we were probably in that room approximately an hour, maybe a little longer. But we did get it out of the house, but it was still on the property. Then they're all like, "Oh my gosh, look, look, look." So out in the field, it was looked like a cornfield or something. It was nighttime, so it was really hard to tell, but it looked like corn. There were 3 ghost KKK people moving around. We're all seeing this, right? And it was just so sad, guys. It was just really so sad. It just hurt our hearts so bad. And so then we went to investigate the slave quarters. I feel spirit holding my hand. Oh. And there is where I could feel there were several there. There were more than what had came through to me earlier. And so we brought them all out into a circle, held their hands, so we could set those that wanted to cross over, so we could set them free. I had brought a candle and had that lit. We were in a circle, holding hands with them. We were saying a prayer and helping them to see the light. And during that time, I had my eyes closed. However, there were several people that, of the family that had their eyes open. Of course, I guess they were interested in what was going on. And so they were actually watching, and they said something picked the candle up like this, as if it was looking at the candle. Well, during that time, again, my eyes were closed, so I didn't get to see that part. But during that time, and they're like, oh, the candle, I could feel that. I didn't see it this time, but I could feel that negative entity trying to interfere with their crossing. So what I did was I basically casted it aside and told it was not allowed in the circle and it had to get out now. So it did. It did. It knew it was done. And so it literally laid the candle back on the ground. We helped cross the slaves over to give them peace, and then we cleansed the property from this negative energy. That was one that just really blew my mind.